money down. I'm researching another motor, but I'm going to have to buy one to get started just so that I can take this apart because it's so cold outside. I can't deal with this and it's too loud in here.
Hello YouTube, welcome to episode 3. So today we find ourselves still cold, still still sick. Hello YouTube, welcome back to Fixin' with Deke. Welcome to episode 3, and like before, it's still cold, we're still sick, and we're starting to make a little more heat, but so basically I needed a little bit warmer in here before I can do any painting on this trailer. The squeeze ball parts for the blower motor won't be here till Tuesday, and the main parts for that ATV are going to come tomorrow. That's really exciting. My goal was maybe if I could make enough heat tonight, I could at least slap some paint on this trailer so that it gets sit outside for a couple of days, because this cold is killing my truck. It's got to be inside. That's kind of a lie. I mean, trucks do it in Minnesota. That's like living in the ghetto, I guess. And well, Florida's frozen now too. But, you know, and I got a bunch of stuff to do to my truck that it's got to get done. So I thought, since we don't have anything else that we can really do right now, I'm going to pop this motor apart on the body. Basically, this whole heater costs about $350. The motor is like $250. And I'm pretty sure it's either a bad bushing or a bad bearing that I can blow full of grease and get another, you know, however much use out of. But the biggest thing is that I know that I could get a couple of days out of it, because I mean, this cold has got to break. This ain't Minnesota, folks. So is what I've done is I've already gone, I got my needle nose pliers and an Allen wrench. And we're gonna crack this loose. We're gonna get rid of the fan, and we're gonna pull the 2 through bolts and see if this whole pump won't just separate. And if it does, I mean, that's gonna be like money in the bank, because I really don't want to, I'm not gonna put a whole lot of turns on these because they just hold it tight on the shaft. So once you've cracked them loose, they come right off. I'm trying not to get excited about that, because that just means I'm going to find something even worse when I get down inside of this thing. But I can't even tell what that is. We'll just rule out the same size wrench. And it's not that. So we'll put that back. We'll go over here because we just had a Phillips. So it feels Phillips. However, I'm gonna have to grab a different Phillips, one that I can torque on. Give me 1 second. And the vice grips. All right, hopefully we can get these two crack loose. Some of you might have saw this. So the motor is basically just sitting on here, but it's got a bunch of wiring and stuff attached to it, so it ain't gonna move far. So, and we don't need it to move far, we just need it to flip up enough so that I can pull the ends off of it and hopefully see whether it's a bearing or what's going bad here. Because these things, there's not a lot of science to them, folks. And I am not doing well with even the right tools handy. Okay, so now we've got both of these through bolts through, so I'm hoping that we can just pop this whole end off of the motor. Nope. All right, so we need to go some Phillips action, and this is all going to cause some hate and discontent too, because there's gaskets and this is a vacuum head. So it's gonna have to be something that's gonna have to be reset when we get her back together. And the other night when this started messing up, well, in all fairness, I ran it for 2 more days after I knew it was near explosion. But, all right, that was way simpler than I thought. Makes you want to look inside of that thing. So it looks like 6 more bolts. That again, you're not going to have the right size screwdriver for. I'll be right back. That's the bearing that went bad. So I didn't move the camera when I was taking this apart. I know I can reassemble it all. The main bearing on the pump end is what went bad. It looks like it's missing about 4 BBs in it. And well, I mean, I'm not going to kid you. A really smart person would probably go try and find another bearing before reassembling this. But here's where we are with that. Tomorrow's freaking Sunday. Oh, sorry. Tomorrow's Sunday. You ain't getting a bearing on Sunday. Not around here. You ain't getting this bearing in a week. Not around here. So, I gotta go clean my hands up. This whole thing was actually very precision put together, only I didn't know any of that till I took it apart. So, oops. But the good part is that the bolt pattern only lines up one way. And I know where this piece went. So I just got to build everything backwards from that. Piece of cake, right? So, I got to go clean up a little bit. I'm going to try and measure this bearing up as best I can. Yeah. And then we'll figure it out. We'll be right back. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to episode 3. So, since we last met, a whole bunch of stuff has happened. But it's still cold outside. I'm still old, but I'm not sick anymore. What? So, I pulled another dumb thing also. So, you know, we got all this stuff in my shop here. We had taken a few things apart. We'd ordered some parts. And the other night I was sitting in here, a little bored, I guess. I was gonna video, and the damn battery on my phone went dead. And I was like, well, I said, maybe I'll just go around and I'll crack a bunch of this stuff loose while it's charging. And then when the camera's ready to go again, I'll just hit this thing with a zip gun and zing, 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 and everything will fall apart and it'll look just like pristine. Well, I got a little carried away. So, to make a long story short, I had the ATV running when episode 2, and you saw it. And then when I started snapping bolts loose, when I took off the top cover, it's like every third bolt was missing. I called my buddy. I'm like, bruh, what's up with this thing? Who had it before you? Because he's a Navy guy. He knows about maintenance and putting shit back together properly. Well, apparently the ATV was wrecked once while he was on deployment, and his kids fixed it. And we know. Wow, do we know? Because there was a lot of bolts missing. Some of the bolts were there. They just weren't screwed into anything because they lost the nuts and they couldn't rattle out. But all we've done to the bike right now really is I pop the front off, and I will have a premium video of putting it all back together, because that's my MO, like with the other bike, which leads me down another rabbit hole, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I got this bike all taken apart. There's still more to get taken apart to the one piece that was causing the bulk of the problems. But, after banging it, twisting it, tweaking it, I was able to get around this for a little bit. I've taken it out and ridden it a couple of times. I mean, this thing runs good. I mean, it isn't, for a 2001, it's got some body problems, you know, and I've gone and I've found several more bolts. I mean, when we put it back together, we'll make sure it's right. And I'm going to clean it up. But I couldn't recreate because he was telling me, you know, something's jammed up in the front end and it keeps wanting to turn one way really hard. And I don't know, there was a whole list of stuff after we really got to cracking the lid on this thing. And once I got the motor running, you know, we bled all the fuel out of it. We cleaned up the fuel. And then I did this little trick I like to do where you rev it up real good and slam your hand over the thing, over the intake, so that the only thing that it can suck when it's sucking for its life, the only thing it can suck is just straight gasoline. Well, it cleans out all the pores in the carburetor. It cleans out a lot of stuff. But after I did that 3 or 10 times, wow, this thing runs like it's brand new. I did some banging on the transmission, and the low gear wouldn't work. So initially, I clamped the vice grips on it all off of camera because that's where your best work happens. And I got it to snap back and forth a few times, and then I've been soaking it and super lubing it, waiting for this part to come. And I totally apologize for doing all that off camera because it was cool. But the problem with it is on my other bikes, when I go to take that stuff apart, I snap off like every other bolt because they're rusty. And then I get into the whole, you know, 4-letter word expletives. And that's not really family friendly for TV. So then that just, you know, leads you down a whole nother hole. So I thought if I snapped everything loose, you know, we'll be ready to go. It'll look cool. Well, then it just all fell apart, and that's where we are. But so I've got everything laid out. I'll get a decaled camera shot of all of that here in a second. But this ain't even why we're doing video number 3. Not at all. Video number 3 could possibly be short, but it'd be very sweet. It'll be exciting. So I told you about when the heater blew up, and I peed a little. And while I was in here doing nothing the other night, again, I took the motor apart. And I'm going to go ahead and pull you out of here real quick. So I pulled the motor apart. I did me some Googling. And the motor, God bless this little bugger, is $250 for a new one. The whole heater's $350, and this thing's lived a lifetime. So I'm like, you know, bro, we got to figure something out. So I'm like, maybe it's just a bearing, and you can go to the store and buy a bearing. Well, I only go to the city once a month, once every other month, and when I go with a purpose. I go in, I get what I need, and I leave. Because I don't want to deal with all them people. I don't want to deal with all of the crime. I don't want to deal with the beggars, the homeless people. I don't want to deal with any of that. I want to go get my thing and come home. Well, I went, and on the day that I went, the bearing store closed early. The Napa Auto Parts, which was super nice, Napa in Salisbury, Maryland, super nice. They looked up the bearing. They cross-referenced it like 6 ways from Sunday, and it would be a minimum of a week before they could get it to me. And I thank them for all of that. But while I'm sitting there waiting for them, I typed it into Amazon, and I thought that I could have a new bearing in 2 days for $9. So I'm like, well, I might as well just do that, because by the time I come back up here in a week and all of that crap, and that's no fault to them. All right, well, then when I get on the internet, for that $9, you can't buy just one bearing. You get a 10-pack. A 10-pack for $9. Wow. All right, so let me see if I can turn the camera around here. I'm probably gonna have to stop it. All right, so here we are. I've taken this motor apart. Now, right here is the bearing that came out of it. All the things that keep the bearings separate in there are gone. There's 3 bearings missing, and it does not roll right. And I'm not gonna kid you. I gotta get all this painting done, and it's killing me. And I literally was on the cusp about just smacking that bearing full of grease and putting it back together. But then when I found that I could get the bearing, well, from that store that I waited a couple of days to go to, and then they closed early, and then Napa, and then I had to wait 2 more days to get it online, blah, 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 blah. Now I have a 10-pack of bearings. I have a brand new bearing. And I found the place they sell replacement pump heads. They tell you that this is the air filter. That's not the color of the air filter. In the air filter, online it says, replace this filter. Here, it's like right there. It says, replace this filter every 500 hours. Well, when I got this thing, it probably had a couple of 1,000 hours on it. And then I've ran the life out of it. So I found online for, again, $9. You get the air filter, the foam filter, and the fuel filter for $9. All right, so now we are $18 into this bad boy, and I'm getting ready to start reassembling. Because once I get 2 heaters running in here, we're going to be able to heat this place up, paint this trailer, at least get the top deck and the tongue done so that it can go back outside so I can go back about my life and find some better will it start videos. All right, and that's just part of it. Now, I don't want to take away from this thing, but this is, this is morphed into something else. So now I got the motor running premium. I mean, wow, does this thing run good. And I got to get a battery for it, and I got to change the fluids. This leads you in to the rest of the story, and Paul Harvey's not even here to see it. So I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to kick this off. Now the battery leads underneath the bike. That battery is still there, and I've got it hooked up and strapped down to a car battery because that's what I do. All right, and then you come around here, and I'm going to be real quiet. I'm going to pull the choke out. I'm going to turn the key on. The green light comes on the dash. Now, shh. We're going to have to edit that part out. God bless it. All right. All right, but you saw that, how quickly she started. Runs awesome. So we're going to take the gas tank out of it. I've already pulled all this loose. Again, the bolts were missing anyways, but pull the gas tank off, separate the carburetor, replace that intake manifold, and then I'm going to clean the body, and I got to do some restructuring. That smoke you're seeing right there is not damage or bad, because a lot of the parts on this bike were molding and nasty. I told my buddy that I would go ahead and waste a couple of cans of PB Blaster, and I would wet down all of the rusty and nasty parts. So in the Marines, when you're getting ready to go on deployment, you're running your vehicle through salt water. You literally jump off of a boat into about 4 to 6 feet of water that they call beached. And then you run your vehicle underwater and then up onto the beach. And then you pray that A, the motor stays running, and B, it don't rust to a million pieces while you're on deployment. But basically, right before you go on deployment and then right when you get back, they run it through a car wash and you're basically soaking the car down in diesel or whatever. But to me, it was always, man, we're hitting these buggers with some PB Blaster. So that's what I'm doing to his bike. Soaking down the rusty parts. It'll slow down the rusting. It'll clean, the rest of it. And when I give this thing back to him, it's going to be something that's going to be a daily driver. I mean, it runs premium. The brakes work perfect. The four-wheel drive works perfect. I did not have those high of hopes for this thing when I took on the project. I really didn't. I figured I would be able to get it running, and it would be like a running, driving kind of beater, but not that great. And then, so today we went out yesterday. My friend wanted to go get a new ATV, and you see what I've been riding. Well, I decided I wanted one too, so I got a bike. My wife rode it today. I may or may not include video of that. I don't know yet. But I bought another bike too, and then my friends were all like, get rid of your old bike. Get rid of it. And I'm like, the isms from the other bike are exactly the same on a brand new bike. So now it's like, well, was this thing really that bad? I mean, it's an awesome bike. And after I replaced the fuel system in it, it runs really good. So it just smokes and uses a little bit of oil. So if you dump a quart of oil in it every time you dump gas in it, you're probably okay. We got to figure that out. But back to video number 3. All right, sorry I'm a babbler. But so we're going to put this thing back together. There's the whole engine taken apart. No precision in this thing at all. It's just that bearing runs everything. And we're going to video it, putting it back together, and then we're going to fire this thing up. And I will make sure that the camera is going so that if I burn to death in a flaming mess, you'll at least have something to laugh at by somebody else. I'm kidding. But I got really high hopes for this. It turned out to be simpler than I thought. I was just going to crack the 2 screws loose. And when I cracked the 2 screws loose, the entire mess literally fell apart. And I mean, there's a couple more screws that hold all the rest of the parts together. But the 2 screws really were the main pieces. And everything was perfect after I took out the hold together screws. So give us a minute and then we'll get this filmed and back together. Okay. So hopefully that's zoomed in enough. We'll try to make that work. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to compare the new bearing to the old bearing. And just hold them in your fingers. Everything looks exactly the same. So the part number matches, so we're pretty sure the bearing's going to work. Now, it ought to just push right on the end down here. Then we'll put another one on there. And then we're going to get out the little banger. Almost there. Almost pulled a landman and smashed my freaking finger. premium. So now the bearing is in there. All right. Push this through and it just pops on there. I mean, very low tech, very simple. She's snazzy. All right. Now the hardest part to this comes next. All right, I'm just putting these back together the way that I think that they came apart. I'm going to attempt to redo this again. All right. All right, so now is what I've done here is I put the fan back in there. These little fins just fall out. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's gravity spun so that when the motor spins really fast, see them things fly out so that it'll suck air. So that's that. Now, putting this next part back together is a little bit tougher because you know the direction that it went. All right, and then this part here, you got to look down the long axis of the motor. Yeah, like that. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that it went that simple. But again, this thing is pretty low tech. It's actually very low tech, but whatever. All right. Almost there. Last one. Okay, so you'll notice that I only snugged them. Why? Because This thing's still kind of delicate, and I need to wait until it's on the machine to really do some torquing on there. So now the air compressor is together. The bearing is in, everything is pushed together. Now this part right here is a bushing. So is what we're gonna do is I went and I dug out a brand new multi-vehicle grease, when really my Fleet Farm was right here, my old trusty, which in fact I'm gonna use this just because it's old. Fleet Farm in Minnesota is like Walmart. You can go in there, they have man-sized clothes, they have snowmobile suits, everything you can buy for a tractor. I think the last time I went in, they actually had groceries too. But everything for your farm. So it's like Lowe's, Home Depot, and Walmart all in one place. And I wish we had more stores like that, to tell you the truth, but whatever. So we're just gonna get just a dab on the finger, and we're gonna just dab up the shaft here a little. And then we're gonna take and we're gonna put some in the bushing head too. And we're gonna push her on there once and spin it just to make sure. Oh yeah, she's snazzy. She is very happy, folks. Okay, so now, as I make a mess, I always hate it when I start lying on camera. All right, but so now she's ready to go. So these were the 2 bolts right here that started my whole week's tirade of wrongdoings, because I just wanted to crack these loose, figuring that they were just gonna break off anyways. So, tip this back a little bit, turn this over to here just a little bit, and we're gonna feed these bad boys through. All right, so as what I did here, let me wipe my hands so that I can touch the camera. Probably should have done that before anyways. All right. So, is what we did was we put the front on the motor, and then that can only go on there one direction. And then when you look at the motor from the back, there's only 2 holes that the through bolts can go all the way through. So that's how you know where those 2 pieces go. All right, so now we are gonna take, I don't know if it's gonna let me do this, but it'll be funny if it does. All right, so now we're set back up. We've greased the bushing. We've set the whole back of the pump up. Now we're just gonna wiggle this thing through here. Those were the short Phillips. And essentially is what we've done here is we just did a complete engine rebuild on our budget torpedo heater. All right, now unfortunately, my guy that tunes this, he's one of the local oil tycoons, and I'm kidding. But then we got to give this just a little tap because she's hanging up. All right. So the way that you know that you didn't put it back together right is the motor don't spin. And that stinks. So now you got to take it all back apart again to find out where is the holdup. Something is bound up, and it's just bound up a butt hair. Oh, it's actually bound up on the pump end. Okay. So just because I'm curious and I don't know what'll happen myself, I'm gonna grab an extension cord here. We're gonna put some power to this thing and see if the motor spins. All right, power's off. Okay, the motor did not spin. That's a problem, y'all. So, our low-tech 2-screw motor is smarter than I am. And it honestly has something to do with that pump on the back. So, maybe the bushing isn't in all the way. And honestly, what fun is it if you're just going to put the thing together and it runs on the first try anyways? Ah. So this part seems to want to work. And I don't know if I should drip a little drip into the back of the pump. You know, drip a couple drips of oil in there. To see if she's gonna suck. Or when she's pushed together, the bearing ain't on there long enough. So maybe is what we do is we put this on here like this. All right, so two things happened there. One was the bearing went further onto the shaft, which in retrospect was probably our problem. But I'm gonna put a little bit more grease on this again just because I want to. And if I get 10 more years out of this thing, wow. Let's hope for 10 more years. Maybe I hope to live 10 more years. I don't know. But it would be nice not to have to take it apart for 10 years. So let's just hope for that. All right. We made another mess with our fingers. And you always have to have one that doesn't want to start, because that Give her one more shot and see what happens. No. So a couple of things could happen there. One, you can put this fan on here, which we need to clean. So we're gonna go ahead and clean this up real fast and then put the fan blade on there and see if we can spin the motor by hand. And I'm only cleaning this, y'all. I'm not wearing my glasses, but I'm only doing low speed, so I'm not slinging crap everywhere. So the backside's pretty clean, but we're gonna take and we're gonna spin this over. And then we're gonna put the fan on. So then you gotta wonder what the problem is. Okay. So I had to turn the camera off for a minute so that I could let out a couple of 4-letter expletives. I wanted to smash something with a hammer, but I didn't. So basically, there's 2 screws that hold this back piece in. And again, super precision. The motor was locking up big time, and I couldn't figure it out. I checked all my spacings, and that wasn't the problem. Well, this end piece that has only 2 screws that hold it together wiggles in there, and if it's too close, too tight in the end, it was bogging down the motor. So I cracked it loose, and then you can see there's 2 screws that hold that in there, one here and one down here. So I cracked those loose and the motor spins free. All right, everything is happy. So now I'm going to torque that back down, and I'm going to pop the back on it. Snug the 2 screws on the motor here. Where did my camera go? There we go. So I got these 2 screws here to get right. There we go. And then I really think we're going to be in business. So I need a minute. I'm still going to video. I'm not going to stop the camera this time. Hopefully I can get it back in there without messing it up. But regardless, we're money in the bank, y'all. She's ready to rock. So we're going to pop this back in here like this. Squeeze that. Look at that. Just like she's meant to. All right. So we're going to give this one more little torque. All right, motor still spins free. All right, so apparently there was some precision to that. I apologize for misleading you guys and thinking that this was just a simple bearing replacement on this stupid piece. But it's fixed. It's ready to rock and roll. Torque, 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 and torque. I'm going to call it a high maybe. All right. So the next thing we got to do here and we're going to hit this bad boy with some white lithium. Well, doesn't that figure? You put it in and then you find the missing piece. So then you get to take it all back apart again. Because that's what I like doing really is, you know, you assemble it, you know, 6 or 8 times for practice. And that's when you find out, you know, all of the little stuff. All right, so put that on there like that. Okay. I'm gonna call it hopeful. Here we go, folks. Test drive number 3. Okay, so the motor runs. Let's set the lid back on here again. Again, back to precision. So this thing was taken apart like 800,000 times before I got it. So it only has drywall screws holding the lid on. Which is mostly fine. All right. straw. It's an unspoken law of backyard mechanicking that you always lose the straw first. All right. Now we're gonna have to, we got a working motor, but the pump is sucking, and then this ball lets some of the air through to push into the tank, and the tank lid is on. So maybe we pull this all the way out and just test it. All right, we're gonna have to do some homework. I'll be right back, y'all.
All right, so we're back here again on the heater. Now, I couldn't video what happened because there was a whole lot of bad words spoken. Some of them were less than Christian. But here's what happened. So when we fired the pump up, I tweaked and I tuned and I couldn't do it. So then I bought the ball kit, which I lost the old ball, but this there's a ball spring in there that cuts down on the air. I replaced that and it made no difference to the running of the motor. So then I went online and I bought a new air pump. This piece, which was specific to the air pump and was generic and would fit on every one, all right, that was a load of crap. So it fits on this one, but it wouldn't fit on my motor. So, no, it won't fit on this one, but it came out of this one. There we go. All right, so that plastic piece wouldn't fit on mine, and that keeper on mine wouldn't work on this part of the air pump. So we traded out just the 4 fans, and you can see they're all boring just that tiny bit. All right, and when I replaced those, we went from about almost 3 PSI to 5 PSI. Well, it was about 4. And we still weren't there. I tweaked and I tweaked and I tweaked, and I blew my whole shop full of nasty smoke. And then I opened up the door so that the place could air out. And as soon as I opened up the door, the air pressure jumped up to 5.5 that I needed, and it started burning properly. So maybe that just needed to wear in. I don't know. But so here we are. We got 2 working heaters again. So it's not freezing outside, but I need the heaters to be able to create enough heat to heat this trailer up so that the paint will stick to it. So I'm gonna wrap this up for video number 3 with, I got the heater working, but at work we call it PFM, pure freaking magic. I don't know what I did. I replaced a bunch of parts and there was no change, and suddenly it started working right. So I'm happy I got heat, plus I got my new trusty here, but we're gonna let that one ride. All right, so this is the official ending of the video, but I just powered this thing up. It is running pristine. It is. I mean, there is no smell, no smoke, no nothing. The air pressure came up to what it needed to be. This thing is 100% ready to heat this barn. So when I get these HVs out of here, we're going to be able to get this trailer done, with the exception of the mess we made with diesel while we were tuning. Alright, I'm not sure what to say about that part just yet, but if you got a neat trick for cleaning that up, please drop a note about it in the comment section. I'd greatly appreciate it. Again, thanks for tuning in to D Fixin', and I'll see you in the next one.